told that the trip is not canceled, it certainly seems as though they have put this on a hold. We don't know when he's going to leave. We don't know if he's going to leave. You mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump obviously could end the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, but we know the U.S. was using that as leverage, using it for leverage to make sure the deal went through, to make sure that the Iranians didn't back out or change anything at the last minute, because they believe that is their biggest power play right now, this blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. So still a lot of questions as to where exactly this stands. As you know, we have been in a place where the ceasefire was supposed to be over tonight at 6:30. Then President Trump said he's not going to extend it, but it's actually Wednesday night. That was all in relation to the idea that Vice President Vance was going to have to get on a plane, fly for hours and hours and hours, get there, do the negotiating, and sign this deal. We are past that point now. This is going to take a long time for him to get there, if he goes at all, then have the negotiations, and then potentially sign something. So it seems almost impossible now that we're not going to blow right through that ceasefire deadline.
Indeed. All right, Kristen Holmes, first with the White House. Kristen, thank you very much. All right, my panel's here in the arena: CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Elliot Williams, CNN political director and Washington bureau chief David Chalian, plus CNN political commentator, former Biden White House communications director Kate Bedingfield, and CNN senior political commentator, former director Senator Mitch McConnell, political director Scott Jennings, among other things. We're also joined by Axios' global affairs correspondent Barack Ravid. Thank you all for being here. Barack, I want to start with you just on your latest reporting, since you talk to so many players all the time in the region. What is your understanding of what the real holdup is here, the real story as these talks are on hold?
Well, I think right now it's even, I think the situation is even worse than on hold. As far as I understand, Vice President Vance's trip to Pakistan was quote-unquote postponed indefinitely, which in English means canceled. And I think that when you ask the Iranians, now we're in the blame game. The Iranians are blaming the U.S. that the reason that they're not participating in the talks in Pakistan is the naval blockade. The U.S., on the other hand, says that internal divisions within the Iranian leadership caused this crisis because the IRGC did not allow the civilian leaders to take the deal that President Trump offered. I have to say that I personally have several indications that this is true, that internal divisions within the Iranian leadership, is at least one of the reasons to this crisis. I think Iranian Foreign Minister Arakji, Speaker of Parliament Kalibaf, and the Iranian President Pezeshkian all thought that Iran should participate in these talks in the U.S. because they thought this could lead to an extension of the ceasefire. The IRGC, on the other hand, especially its commander Vahidi and the commander of Iran's armed forces, General Abdullahi, both thought that as long as the naval blockade is in place, Iran should not be part of any negotiation. This leads us, within hours maybe, to the resumption of the war, because the original deadline of the ceasefire is around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. President Trump said yesterday that he might give it another day, but I think there is a real possibility that within hours this war could resume.
Okay, so David Chalian, what does that mean for an American president who really wants this to be done?
I mean, he couldn't be more clear about that, even in his CNBC interview this morning, despite everything you just heard from Kristen and Barack Ravid about the state of play right now. The president this morning was still very no, there's a deal to be had here. They really want a deal. We're going to have a deal. Because he is so desirous of an off-ramp from this. The war is obviously a political weight around his neck, his party's neck, this midterm election year, and he's looking for a way out. That doesn't mean that he won't, obviously, he has all the options in front of him, that he won't engage with military response if that is what's required. I'm not suggesting he's just going to throw his hands up and not do that, but that is a far more politically perilous route for him than finding some way to call even an interim step here for an extended ceasefire a bit of a win.
Well, and let's put up the recent NBC polling. 67% of Americans say that they disapprove of President Trump's handling of the war with Iran, just 33% approve. But of course, one of the key dynamics here for President Trump is the splintering in his MAGA base, because the America First movement in many ways has been criticizing him. A number of its leading figures have been criticizing him. I want to play something Tucker Carlson said just in the last day or so, where he said he was sorry for misleading people and telling them to support President Trump. Listen.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him, we're implicated in this for sure. Yes. It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like, in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now. Yes. So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. And it was not intentional. That's all I'll say.
I'm sorry for misleading people. And Scott Jennings, when he was talking there to his brother, the former GOP Trump speechwriter Buckley Carlson, what do you say to that?
I mean, is his preference that Kamala Harris had become the president of the United States? That will come as a surprise to, I'm sure, a lot of people who used to view Tucker Carlson as a conservative and someone who, had certain kinds of values. And what's he sorry for? That we got to do an engagement here that might ultimately lead to taking away nuclear weapons
We got into
from
engagement, Scott. That is quite a way to put it.
from Iran. I mean,
We started a war.
is he now claiming he had no idea that Donald Trump held a position that he would never permit Iran to have nuclear weapons? If that's what he's saying today, he's kind of a moron. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Or he's willfully misleading people. The president was clear. He'll never let them have nuclear weapons. We just saw on 60 Minutes on Sunday night a broad agreement among the experts. They have 970 pounds of enriched uranium, enough to make 10 or 11 nuclear bombs. This is not acceptable to the president. He had that position back in 2024. He had that position back in the first term. He has that position today. To say now that you're sorry that you elected a president that wanted to take away nuclear weapons from this terrorist regime, I don't get it.
Tucker Carlson was also at the White House as recently as, I think, February. I mean, a few weeks ago. So I New York Times reported he was on the phone with President Trump and lead up to all of this. Yeah, I mean, so I'm not gonna go so far as to agree with Scott by any
It'd be the best possible PR thing you could do.
But
right
I am gonna say that the idea that we're gonna take Tucker Carlson at face value on this, like I'm not somebody personally who is going to listen to Tucker Carlson say these things and feel like he has had a genuine change of heart. I think there's all sorts of personal ambitions at play here. We can set that aside, but I will say it is problematic for Trump's coalition, and more importantly, even outside of the pod sphere. Real Americans, actual voters, including Republican voters, are frustrated by this war. They don't understand why we're in it. We're continuing to see what we've seen play out today is, Donald Trump had his vice president teed up on the tarmac to go and negotiate and then had to pull him back. Just as a general rule, if you were trying to project strength and you have your arms around the situation, having to pull your vice president back from traveling to the negotiations, not a great signal. So I think in addition to the fact that gas prices, oil prices, airplane tickets are going up, Trump is also eroding on this sense that he is strong and in control. So politically, hugely problematic for him.
To the gas prices point, what's fascinating about all this, it seems that Iran might be learning that they don't need nuclear weapons to hold the world hostage. Just all of this fighting over the Strait of Hormuz, which is wreaking havoc on the global economy to some extent, is their great power. And to some extent, it would almost be more efficient for them to just give up all the nuclear or the uranium that they have and be the economic terrorists to some extent, right? I mean, I'm not. You bristled there. I don't.
No, I wasn't bristling at all. No. I was just saying that the removal of, to your point about the nuclear material, not allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon, like that is the most politically popular thing of ever, which is the goal. I understand.
That's the goal.
But squaring that with, in that same poll, that NBC poll that showed more than 6 in 10 Americans do not want any additional military action, including a significant chunk of Republicans who said that in that NBC poll, and we see that in polling throughout. Squaring that popular goal of an Iran without nuclear with a clear majority of Americans not wanting any more military action, that's the conundrum the president finds himself in.
Sure. Well, I think most Americans would hope that the Iranians come to their senses and there's a diplomatic solution. But at some juncture, if they don't want to do that, and the IRGC doesn't want to let the other civilians in the Iranian government do that, they're going to have to learn the lesson again. There's no education in the second kick of a mule. That'd be my only advice to the Iranians.
So we've got a little bit of breaking news here. There's a new statement from President Trump just posted on his Truth Social platform. He says this, quote, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Pakistani officials, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other. President Donald J. Trump. Barack Ravid, I mean, how do you read between the lines of this? I mean, the president here clearly, we will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted. You were talking just at the top of the show about thinking we could see this resumption in hostilities any moment. Seems like the president is taking that off the table for now. What say you?
Well, first, we said, right, that Vice President Vance postponed his trip to Pakistan indefinitely. I think President Trump here announced that there will be a ceasefire indefinitely. He did not give any time frame for this extension of the ceasefire. And I think what we see here is what, I think we discussed, earlier in the show. President Trump wants to end the war. He did not want to resume it. He wants a diplomatic solution. He thinks that all the military objectives, as far as this is what I hear from people around him. He thinks that the military objectives have mostly been achieved, and therefore the other objectives that still need to be achieved will be better achieved through a diplomatic deal, especially when it comes to Iran's nuclear program, its enrichment program, and its enriched uranium stockpile. And I think this is the reason that President Trump just now announced that he's extending the ceasefire indefinitely. I think this means that he wants a deal. The problem is that if you announce such a thing, you take a lot of your leverage away. And while the blockade will still continue, I'm not sure that the Iranians will now feel that there's a credible military threat. Therefore, I'm not sure it will lead to concessions.
All right, Barack Ravid, Forrest Brock, thank you very much. Really appreciate your reporting and analysis. The rest of my panel is going to stand by here. Coming up next in the arena.